I'm Stephanie Bond.
I'm Latrice Gunn.
Thank you. And we have chosen to present on a leader that you all might know. Her name is Dr. Andrea Thomas, and she is very special. So on the right here, we have a picture of Dr. Thomas from last fall, actually, after we all threw water on her face for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. She was gracious enough to take that picture for me. And then right here we have a quote pulled from our interview with her, and something that she kind of stands by in her leadership, and that is that everyone can be a leader. It is a little bit easier for some people than others, but if you're trying to lead something which you feel very passionate about, that's probably going to be your greatest advantage.
So a quick overview of Dr. Thomas and her career. She started out at the Ohio State University, where she got her bachelor's and her doctorates. She originally studied English and for pre-law, but she actually worked on a suicide hotline, and it kind of got her to thinking, and she joined a psychology class, and that psychology class kind of changed her view, and she switched majors. And she pursued a career in industrial organization, and her PhD is industrial and organizational psychology.
She actually didn't know that you could study people when she originally went to school, so when she got to Ohio State and found out in her psych class that that's what psychology is all about, it really opened up a new door for her, and really just kind of unlocked her passion.
So one of the most obvious things that we thought about Dr. Thomas was that she is an authentic leader. And an authentic leader can be described as someone who's transparent, morally grounded, and someone who is responsive to people's needs and wants and different motivations. So whether you're focusing on a practical or theoretical approach, we both feel that they both apply to Dr. Thomas. And the practical approach usually deals with the actions that a leader takes in different situations and the characteristics and qualities of a leader, while the theoretical approach is more research-based and also based off of major life events that kind of shape their personality and who they are. So whether you focus on either approach, authentic leaders are continuously developing, and they are self-aware and grounded and genuine. They are mission-driven and focused on results. They lead with their hearts, and they're focused on long-term solutions and goals. So list of 10 things that we feel like an authentic leader embodies and what they go by. And during an interview with Dr. Thomas, we asked her what was the most rewarding leadership experience that she's had in her life thus far, and her answers kind of brought all of these 10 things together. She said watching her students that maybe she didn't think could do something, watching them achieve what they were trying to achieve, and when someone really wants to improve on something and they actually do it, and also the micro accomplishments, the one-on-one kind of change, and we kind of feel like that answer kind of reflects a lot of these things, such as leaving a legacy and committing to excellence and the building teams and creating communities. Also, Dr. Thomas has made a big career change, and I think that is very courageous of her. Leaving a job that you love to pursue your purpose, I think takes a lot of courage. It also takes some confidence in your abilities, whether they are inherent or whether they're learned behaviors. And it's also something you have to do that's from your heart. And all of those things kind of come together and make her a well-rounded and authentic leader.
So the next theory that we kind of applied to her and her leadership is the contingency theory, which kind of states that there is no one specific best form of leadership, and rather it's based on the situation and how the leader responds to the situation and the variables that are presented by the situation itself. So with the contingency theory, you have to identify the leadership style that the person possesses and the situational variables. So for Dr. Thomas, as you may or may not have picked up when you have interacted with her, she tends to be more relationship-oriented than task-oriented. She likes to develop really strong, positive, emotional bonds with people and just really getting that personal buy-in before she tries to get them to do something. And then once she has established that relationship and that connection, that's when she goes in and she tries to take things to the next level. Because she's already established the power, she's got your respect, and people are willing to invest in her and her ideas and just kind of follow her in whatever direction she may choose. Additionally, she tends to be more of an unstructured problem solver than a structured one. She kind of looks at things as an experience, like everything is an experience to her. And so when she steps into it, that's when she figures out what she needs to do to fit the situation. Okay, so for Dr. Thomas's Myers-Briggs, I immediately knew, I assumed that she would be an ENFP, because I'm an INFP, so she's my sister personality. And I texted her and she was immediately like, oh my goodness, I am the poster child for ENFPs, and she was very excited. So their identity, or they're like known to the world as the campaigners, or the inspirers, or the champion personalities. They really believe that they can change the world with an idea, just by being present in life. So as extroverted personality types, they tend to take their energy from people. They get their energy from people and being surrounded by people and ideas constantly. The ENFP personality type tends to be a more childlike, playful personality type, not to be confused with childish, because childish is a bit more of a negative connotation, whereas the extroverted ENFPs really bring a lot of joy and optimism and vitality to every situation. They're the most vivacious of the personality types, and they are also the most well-liked. So she definitely brings that kind of charisma when she walks into the room. She's the kind of person who makes people feel comfortable, and you don't really necessarily know why she makes you feel comfortable, but she walks into the room and you know that she's going to recognize you and whatever you're feeling, even if it's just with a simple glance. And I think that's something that everyone really appreciates about her. As an intuitive type, she is very future-oriented and forward-thinking. She is constantly coming up with new ideas and building on them. She's a dreamer. She's the one who wants to see the world just fulfill as much potential as possible. And these are the kind of people who really don't believe that limits exist and that anything can be done. On the back side of that, though, because she's such a big idea person, she tends to throw out ideas all the time without necessarily fulfilling them, and that can sometimes act as a weakness in her leadership. As a feeling type, she puts her emotion into everything that she does, and she's able to gauge her relationships and know where people are emotionally and what they're feeling. She kind of looks for a deeper meaning in relationships and life, and she's able to read and pick up on situations that other people might not be able to. And then as a perceiver, as an ENFP, you kind of manifest your internal life very introverted, in an introverted manner. So everything's, I know that seems a little bit counterintuitive, but everything that they have going on in there, they keep very much to themselves. All of their values are very, very, very established, and they're not really going to change them just because they're around other people. They're actually the people who are going to bring other people on board with what they believe because they're so excited about them and they're so deeply embedded in their personality. Additionally, perceivers tend to be a little bit more scatterbrained, and they have trouble with organization and timeliness, necessarily being prompt with things, and this is where she also will have issues following through with her ideas.
If y'all remember, she was late on the first day of class.
Yes, she was.
Okay.
So their bigger life themes is that they see life as a huge puzzle that they can solve, and they really want to take the darkness. While they do kind of manifest that childlike personality, they also are very on the opposite end, where they're kind of like old souls, and they're able to see a lot of things that other people can't. They're very wise, and they can see the darkness, and that life isn't necessarily just a happy fairy tale, but they really want it to be. And so that's kind of what they bring to the table. They see connection, and they're just searching for ways to make the world a little brighter place.
And as for her leadership approaches, when leadership was originally studied, it was thought that some of these traits were indicative of a good leader. And they would believe that these things would differentiate leaders from followers. And although you don't have to have these to be a good leader, those are the qualities that kind of breed good leaders. They are intuitive and they're conceptual, and I think she embodies all of these. With intelligence, you need to have the verbal ability and perceptual ability and the reasoning and moral reasoning also to kind of get people to follow you. But also with intelligence, you don't want to have such a big gap in your intelligence and the intelligence of your followers. Because if you do, then it's kind of hard for them to follow or grasp your ideas or just to get on board with whatever it is that you're doing. Self-confidence goes to self-esteem. Just the thought and the knowing that you have the ability to change people or to make a change or to lead people. Determination, that has a lot to do with drive, especially when you're leading a group of people who need direction. Drive and determination comes in very handy with that. Integrity, honesty, for people to follow you and want to get along with whatever you're doing, they have to trust you. And sociability, she's likable. We all love her, so they all kind of go together. And for the skills approach, there's a 3-skill approach: the technical, human, and conceptual. Those things are needed also to kind of blend the trait and the skill approach together, which is something I think that she does very well. She has the knowledge and the proficiency in her job and her skills. And she's also a people person, which is very important, and conceptual. She has the big ideas. Although she's not very good at following through on them, she has those big ideas. When Dr. Thomas actually doesn't think that she's such a leader, she feels like she's more of a middle management person. There's always someone that she has to look up to, whatever, but we feel like she is. But in the middle management type of leadership role, you need to have all 3 of these to kind of make it work. When you're on the lower level, the technical and the human skills are more important. But when you're in the middle management, getting towards upper management, all 3 are important. And when you're at that top spot, they rely more on the human and the conceptual. And the fact that she embodies all of those, along with all of the traits of a good leader, really makes her a nice, well-rounded leader.
Okay, so some of the challenges that Dr. Thomas has touched on in her experience with leadership were overcoming apathy and getting people on board. Really establishing that buy-in tends to be the most difficult thing for her to overcome. And recently she's been working with the firefighters downtown or whatever and trying to get them to overcome their emotional baggage and just kind of let that out and, you know, maintain a happier lifestyle through you're talking it out, but they're not comfortable with talking to strangers. They're not comfortable with just letting people into their like little firefighter world and letting other people try and like the hard hat. So she was talking about how she actually sat down with them and said, like, do you know how to play euchre? And she spent time playing euchre with them and time with their families, and that's what really did it, was getting to know people and establishing those relationships. And once that happened, she was able to push that change through. And then another thing that she struggles with is ensuring the sustainability. She's really great at building projects up, but one of her biggest fallbacks is kind of establishing contingency plans or relaying that information to other people so that they can follow through with her idea after she is gone. So that's something that she encourages everyone to work on.
And as we talked about before, some of her weaknesses is her organization skills. She doesn't feel like she's very organized and, you know, a timely person. She's more scatterbrained type, and that's kind of a setback, but you know, it's one of those things about an authentic leader. They're continuously developing, so these are some of the things that are a weakness for her now, but that can be developed and are still developing. And the fact that she generates a lot of ideas, she's the type of person that has to be around doers, so she's the one that comes up with the ideas and she needs the backup to help her get those things going. And she's also kind of thin-skinned. She doesn't tend to let things roll off for her. She kind of internalizes it a little bit. But one thing that she said was not so much of a weakness, but she felt like was more of a failure on her part, was the fact that the courses that we have here at Capitol, they're kind of doing away with those. But in our eyes, we kind of see maybe it's more of a positive thing, because maybe, you know, maybe they don't have the personnel or people or the ideas or the leader that they need to continue the org behavior course that she kind of put together. That was a big idea of hers that she kind of got together. And although she was able to follow through with it, you know, she moved on to, you know, different areas.
Okay, and then for our last slide, yes, that is her face photoshopped onto Rosie. Poorly. We're going to talk about her 5 strengths, and that's input, ideation, individualization, developer, and woo. With input, this one's a little bit more rare amongst people. She's really good at collecting a variety of information and data, and then kind of pulling that out at the drop of the hat. She's kind of a man of all trades. Is that the word I look for? What is it? Jack of all trades. A jack of all trades, where she may not know necessarily like a lot of depth of information about one specific subject, but she's the kind of person who knows a little bit about everything. So when she goes into a room of people, she's able to connect with a variety of people by discussing various topics. With ideation, she's able to come up with a lot of ideas, and even more than that, she's able to take other people's ideas and then spin them into something that can help be productive or positive, and just kind of pull together things that might be a little bit more irrelevant or unlikely to other personalities. The individualization and developer type kind of go together, where they both pull out the unique qualities in individuals. And she had a lot of experience with this as a teacher, as I'm sure Dr. Moore does as well, where she's really good at, if a person comes in and they are already on top of it and they know what they want to do, taking that person to the next level and helping them to get where they can be. But if someone comes in crying because they don't want to do or know what they want to do with their life, as I'm sure some of us may have done in the past, she's able to provide compassion and encouragement and direction for them, and that's something that not everyone is able to do. And then with Woo, she's a very excited person. She really likes to come in and make people feel at ease at home, and break the ice and just kind of get to know people on that like basic level. Oh, and then this is the kind of the central theme that I thought Dr. Thomas lived by with her leadership. And it reads, if you want to be a successful leader, you need to make other people a part of your leadership. Learn to delegate and never try to do it alone. And that is it. Do you guys have any questions?